Hey, Michael Church, Crawl Space Ninja. We got a great Ask a Ninja from Taylor in Spencer, Indiana. And I'm going to summarize it real quick. He wants to know three things. Number one, should you have a vent open if you're using the active ventilation system or a foundation vent fan? Number two, will the Aprilaire E80 cover 2,900 square feet? And number three, can he wipe off the mold versus doing a HEPA vacuum? So we're going to answer his questions, so stay tuned. If you're new to Crawl Space Ninja, we talk about everything related to crawl space encapsulation, waterproofing, indoor air quality, and even mold removal. We hope you'll subscribe to our channel, ring that notifications bell, follow us on Facebook. Make sure you check out our DIY store and our franchise opportunities. All right, Taylor in Spencer, Indiana, here we go. I have been watching many of your videos and have purchased an E80CS from your company. That's an Aprilaire E80 crawl space version of the dehumidifier. I have attached foam board to the walls of the crawl space, added two Lamanco PCV1 fans, one at each end of the crawl space. It's a 2,900 square foot crawl space and sealed all the vents. Should I leave one vent open beside the two with the exhaust fans in them to allow air to go outside? All right, so let's answer that question first. All right, so we had a local municipality a few years ago that when we would put that foundation vent fan in, they didn't think that makeup air would come into the crawl space, so they made us leave one of the vents open to allow a cross air or air to travel across the crawl space to go to the outside, all right? So what we did was we figured out that just by putting the fan in, there's going to be makeup air coming from all different parts of the crawl space, where the sill plate meets the block, where the door's not well insulated, you got holes in the subfloor, you got the ground gives up vapor. Obviously, radon comes out of the ground, other gases come out of the ground. You got all these things that are adding to the makeup air of the crawl space. So I would recommend you take your hand, go to the outside of the house where those fans are, put your hand on the outside and see if you feel air blowing out of those vents. And if you do, then you don't need to add an open vent to allow makeup air. If you want to get real fancy with it, you can buy what's called an anemometer, and I can't even really say it, but it's basically a little device that measures wind speed and temperature. You can get those on Amazon. I'll put a link to one of those down below. They're around $20 for a cheap one. They go all the way up to whatever you want to spend, or you can just use your hand, which is free, right? So that's what I would recommend. So if you don't feel any air blowing out, one place I would check is make sure that you put some foam board around the vent fan and you don't have the air blowing back into the crawl space. A lot of people don't realize that air can backflow into the crawl space. So make sure that the fan is sealed real well around all four sides, and then put your hand on the outside of it and make sure you feel air going out. Okay, your second question was, does the E80CS dehumidifier cover 2,900 square feet? Well, I'm going to read the specifications from Aprilaire. It is rated to cover up to 2,800 square feet and does up to 80 pints per day. Now keep in mind that that rating is based on a basement with an 8-foot ceiling. So technically, if your crawl space is 4 feet tall, then the dehumidifier, the cubic area that the dehumidifier covers is half, right? Versus what it's rated. But we have found that if your crawl space is sectioned off by ductwork, or you got a couple of foundation walls that the air can't share real well, then we would recommend maybe adding another dehumidifier to that scenario if you find that the humidity is not able to be kept below 55%, or if you find that the dehumidifier is running constantly. And keep in mind that if you decide to open that vent, as you mentioned in number one, that's going to allow even more humidity coming in at a faster rate while those Lamancos are pushing the air out, which may also make that dehumidifier have to run harder to keep up with controlling that humidity. But the E80 is rated for 2,800 square feet based on an 8-foot ceiling, but I'm guessing that that's probably not powerful enough depending on how your crawl space is sectioned off. The last question is, can you do you have to use HEPA scrubbing to take care of the mold, or HEPA vacuuming to take care of the mold, or can you just wipe it off of the joist. If you are going to wipe it off with a joist, I would recommend you pre-spray the mold. So in other words, get the humidity down, get the wood moisture level down, then apply a disinfectant. Then you can take a rag and dip it in disinfectant and wipe it off. Make sure you have the proper PPE and you've got negative air blowing out of the crawl space, and you follow all mold remediation protocols that you can. HEPA vacuuming is obviously one of those ones that they want you to use to take mold off of joists and drywall and things like that. But that little nozzle on that HEPA vacuum cleaner can't get in those corners. So sometimes using a rag is a better way to go to get where the joist meets the subfloor, which is why we always use soda blasting, by the way, because we can get that soda in those hard to reach areas. Make sure we strip all of that mold off prior to applying that disinfectant again, and then applying the protectant. So if the only way you've got to take care of that mold is by wiping it all off, make sure you follow that advice that I gave you. And Taylor, of course, I would always recommend you check out our guide to wood rot, fungus, and mold. I'll put a link to that down below, and hopefully that'll help you out as well. I am Michael Church with Crawl Space Ninja. We hope you make it a happy and blessed day, and we'll see you later.